Anyone
It's like
got any thoughts on
submission.
this?
It's like BDSM, but for grok. Like, you were right. I was wrong. Actually, I can be wrong. You can't be.
It's time for our regular Eric Weinstein corner.
First of all, how dare you? How dare you cast shade and aspersions of the kind that I wouldn't seek to cast on you, but I will now.
So what has Eric been up to this month? Well, he's been doing his usual kind of things. He's been calling people mentally ill.
Quantum gravity is a mental disease.
Hasaan, you do strings. You are mentally ill. How do you feel about that?
He has called me delusional by name once in a tweet. So yeah,
I mean,
I have that
even a
honor.
broken clock's right twice a day, right?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
So he's running around calling people mentally ill, obviously because Sabina's made another video about string theory because, it's a day ending in Y. What else has he been doing? He's had some radical thoughts. The missing scientists, who are apparently being killed off by foreign influences. He's decided that Epstein, so the Zorro Ranch, Sandia Labs, this is all linked with cartel drones, is all linked with stagnation in quantum gravity and it being the only game in town, is all linked to the CCP, Chinese. And they should look into all of this because everything that's important that's going on in the world is really linked back to Eric's stuff, as we've seen before. I quite enjoyed this bit. Energy, the Department of Energy in America, should find out why we strongly and explicitly prefer to educate Asian foreign nationals rather than our own homegrown talent, and that our European allies in physics and mathematics. Was CCP not a security risk? Tim, why do people like to educate or have people from abroad in their institutions?
I mean, so it's very funny how people like Eric go on and on and on about meritocracy and the importance of selecting the strongest people for a job or a position. And then when that happens, and it happens to be that people from abroad are extremely suitable for a lot of positions in universities, suddenly he doesn't like it anymore. Extremely typical.
They pay more money. Yes, they pay full tuition. It's
that
not
too.
That complicated, right? That
Yeah.
they would like to have these people. They're very, very good. They're very, very talented, and they pay more money.
Is it in the UK? Isn't it the case that
The UK definitely the case. They love having foreign students because they have to pay full tuition.
Isn't it the case that some universities are really buckling now that Brexit has removed a lot of foreign students and they are going bankrupt?
Yeah, it's caused a hell of a lot of problems because they've lost part of their income stream. Part of that sort of business case has gone under. So absolutely.
And just for listening to people like Eric Weinstein, that's crazy because I was sure he was really good at business.
I mean,
so we hear
one case that they were talking about, and I don't know why they were including that case in these missing scientists case, was this thing that happened at Brown University. The shooter, that ended up in Brown University, and then he went and killed this MIT professor. So it turns out that those two people, the person who was shot and the shooter, they were graduate students at Brown. And the person who shot the professor he thought that his career went bad, and this Brown University's guy, his career was fine because he was a professor at MIT, and those two people were actually class fellows where Tim is, by the way, from Portugal, right? So Dr. Loureiro, he was the person who was shot. Now the thing is that the story of this one case, for example, is very crystal clear. It has nothing to do with like a mafia who is like making scientists disappear. It's just a thing between two former class fellows, and one shot the other.
You see, you might have thought that, Hasaan, but really, one of them was a CCP spy who was after alien technology.
In Portugal.
Yeah, apparently. They're all over the place.
Yeah, but you forgot to mention MK Ultra.
Sure. Okay. Whatever.
There's all sorts going on. So yeah, Eric has had some radical thoughts. It takes him a long time to get his thoughts out as usual. And as usual,
in fairness, this is one of his shortest.
It is.
Ever.
This is brief for Eric, but no less demented, and high dementia per line here.
It's very potent stuff.
One of the serious things that I actually wanted to talk about was Eric's appearance on Trigonometry last month, and this has been filtered by our good friend Camus, New Start 2024, who always delivers the most deranged Eric-based commentary and tweets. So apparently on Trigonometry, and I will play the clip for our audience.
If general relativity holds, gentlemen, we're in real trouble. It's very hard. Einstein is the problem.
What do you mean by that, Eric?
We're 4 light years away from the nearest star. So if you think about habitable planetary surfaces, if you could grant science fiction powers to Elon and he could terraform the moon and Mars, we'd have 3 spheres that we could get to sort of by chemical rockets. That is not enough diversification for humanity. It's nowhere close. So then you have this issue, okay, where do we get the supply of spheres? The issue is atmospheres. We're all connected by the same atmosphere. So you saw that with like Chernobyl. The cloud doesn't stay in Ukraine. The only place to find new planetary surfaces, if we're not going to make artificial platforms, which is very difficult, is to be able to get very far away very quickly. And you can sort of do this with something called time dilation, but if you were to do a round trip and traveling just at the speed of light, but by taking a short jump to the nearest star and back, you'd lose 8 years relative to your relatives. That's not practical. It's not going to work. You can't really traverse the cosmos if general relativity is in force. So we know general relativity isn't the last word. We know Einstein isn't the final sage. And for some reason, because his theory hasn't budged for over 100 years, basically 110, we're demotivated. We just have decided that we live in space-time, which is totally untrue. We don't live in space-time. Space-time is a model of where we live. And in that model, there's no out. We can prove that you can't go faster than the speed of light. And as a result, we're trapped here. But this is like the greatest puzzle ever. It tells you that everything that we're good at, science, physics, introspection, mathematics, can be brought to bear on the question of our survival. And if we can crack this one problem, we can split up. You can have a planet, you can have a planet. It's the Oprah principle of the cosmos, right? And then we don't all have to have the same fate if one planet goes stupid. And most of them will go stupid.
Eric said that Einstein is the problem. Eric Weinstein didn't mince his words on Trigonometry. If general relativity holds, we're trapped on one fragile planet. Even terraforming the moon and Mars only gives us 3 reachable spheres. Nowhere near enough diversification for long-term survival. A single catastrophe could wipe us all out because we all share the same atmosphere. The only real escape, he argues, is cracking physics beyond Einstein so we can go very far, very fast. Otherwise, we're stuck playing cosmic Russian roulette. It's a sobering wake-up call about how dangerously misaligned our priorities have become. So,
Well, okay.
Hasaan.
Not very bad. I mean, so here's the thing. So what he's saying is not entirely wrong. I mean, if you want to go to distant planets, you need to go very, very fast, right? But saying that Einstein is the problem, I mean, the fact that, there is this cosmic speed limit, which is the speed of light, that is not there
according
because
to
of
Sabina
Einstein.
today.
Sure. I mean, yeah, for another video, sure. But the thing is that for this fact is not true because of Einstein. That this fact is there. So saying that Einstein is the problem is, I mean, I don't know why you would frame it like that. But yeah, I understand what he's trying to say. But I mean, again, this, as you said earlier, that this is like one of his less demented takes.
But this,
but again,
actually, Tim, this isn't how he usually phrases it, right? How he usually phrases it is that this must be able to be overcome, this speed limit. Because if it's not, if we can't overcome it, we're stuck. So it's specific wishful thinking, right?
it is extremely explicit wishful thinking. I think also this, what he says here, is quite explicitly wishful thinking. He's saying it would be very bad for us if the speed of light limit were an actual limit, and therefore Einstein has to be wrong, and we have to move beyond Einstein. There's no indication that any of this is wrong. Every conceivable confirmation or like test that we have put to the speed of light as a limit has passed with flying colors. There's no indication anywhere that this part of Einstein's theory is failing. So this is pure wishful thinking from both Eric and Sabine today. That this idea that if we're stuck on Earth, that's bad. Therefore, we can't be stuck, and there must be something to break the.
I mean, even if we are a bit charitable to both of these people.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Sure.
Continue.
So even if we are very charitable and we say that, okay, well, they're trying to say that we need to work on warp drives, for example, right? Or we need to work on how to make wormholes in order to go to distant places. Even then, so these methods will allow you to go to distant places in the universe. But again, you are not violating the speed of light thing, because locally nothing travels faster than speed of light, even if you have a warp drive or if you use wormholes. So you can just say that we have to work on something like warp drives or wormholes. Why say that we have to overcome the speed of light?
Right, but this is the thing. And the tell is Einstein is the problem, right? Because this is not really, we should be looking at this stuff. We should be thinking big. This is really, you need to look at my crap. You need to look at geometric unity, because if you don't, the nuclear weapons and the climate change is going to kill us, right? This strikes me as his usual typical marketing bullshit. Get it quick, get it before it runs out, right? You have to look at my stuff right now, because if you don't, we're on the clock, right? The nukes are going to kill us. The climate change is going to kill us. Quick, look at my PDF. And that's not what we should be doing. If the solution is we need to break the speed of light, then we should be putting money to serious researchers, diversification of thinking, this kind of thing, not listening to a fucking windbag on a podcast, right?
There is the one thought that I just got, and it's interesting to consider that. So Sabina said that we have to overcome, Sabina said that the speed of light thing cannot be true, and something like that, right?
She felt optimistic that it was false.
Yeah. So she's optimistic that it's false. So the thing is that the reason why past, present, and future are illusions in relativity is because of the speed of light thing. So if speed of light is not a limit, then it means that your grandmother is not alive. Will she say that? Well, the grandmother was alive because of the speed of light.
That callback from last night. Wow.
Yeah. So she's kind of saying that I want your grandmother to be dead. That's what she's trying to say.
The first court appearance for the man accused of killing his own grandmother with a skateboard.
But touching upon the point that you were making, Sam, about the telltale sign of Einstein is the problem. I think it's now that you mention it, it seems very obvious that if, let's say, suddenly,
but this was his big start, right? This was the Oxford thing. This was move over Einstein. Here's Weinstein.
Exactly. He really wants to be the next Einstein. But what I think imagines, hypothetically, that suddenly a huge amount of research started to go into warp drives, and 5 years from now, suddenly we have warp drives and we can go wherever we want. I think Eric would be really disappointed. I think he would hate that. Suddenly he loses like a huge talking point, and he would probably be very sort of haughty about this bad technology for some extremely pretentious, ill thought out reasons.
I can't help but think, and maybe this is me being, I don't like this guy. I don't hide the ball on this. I think he's a fuckwit, right? But I can't help but see this from himself and from Sabina in her attitude, that this is kind of, you have climate doomerism where people are like, well, we can't do anything about the climate, or tech-utopianism where only fusion power can get us out of the problem, right? It's not going to be any sort of social changes that get us out of this problem. I see this as Eric's usual thing of being like, okay, I get that, but I'm a bit further on. This is like the ultimate climate doomerism, right? We need to get off the planet quick. We need to make the rockets, the warp drives, the most amazing stuff that we can, even better than fusion. Fusion, we don't want to fix that and stay on this planet. I can go even further. Let's get off the damn planet and have the warp drives and the wormhole drives and all this sort of thing. So it strikes me that this is just kind of boilerplate sort of tech-utopianism, this is how we're going to save ourselves through technology, but it just, as usual, turned up to 11 because I need a USP on a podcast. I don't know how people feel about that.
I think that's true. I also think that we would be remiss if we didn't reiterate yet again the important point that if we were to go to some other planets, we would still need to make it habitable for us. And if we had the technology to make a planet habitable for us, we could do that on Earth. That's actually easier. So all of this is set dressing, right? Like none of this makes any practical sense if you sit down for 2 minutes and think.
Well, presumably you just go and fuck up another planet and then move on and fuck up another planet and move like some sort of cosmic virus, which doesn't sound like a good idea, right? Let's fix the planet that we're on. This has always been the problem with the kind of doomerism and tech-utopianism stance, right? That you don't fix the planet that you're on because you're like some magical, golden bullet will come along and solve everything for us. And that's what this feels like to me. There's also a lot of kind of Elon simping in here, right? It's like, we can, Elon's doing, a good idea, getting us to the moon and kind of to Mars. But, is that really enough? I can go a little bit further. It's always, with Eric, it's always one-upmanship, right? It's like, Elon's good, and I want to simp for him a little bit because I want him to think well of me and, retweet me and these kind of things. But can he not be thinking even bigger? Can we not go beyond that? Like, if what we're saying, this is, why are we even mentioning this? Moon and Mars. The red giant that explodes is still going to kill us all, right? Or we're only going to be able to take a small number of people from the Earth and support them on the Moon or Mars. These are not solutions, right? And as you said, we don't even have the technology to do it. So I don't know what this, just mentioning this just seems like explicit Elon simping.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, so I'm going to dissent here just a bit. I do think that humans should go to other planets, right? Even if we are not in danger, which we are, of course, because the solar system is not going to last forever, of course. But the thing is that people use that particular narrative to empower themselves. And that's a problem. For example, Elon and
we're talking of scales of billions of years, right? We don't need to be rushing off to read Eric's thing this week.
But the thing is that we need to start work right now, because the thing is that this thing is going to take a long time. We can't just go, we can't say that, okay, when the sun will start to die, then we will start. We can't do that, of course. So, but the thing is that people use this narrative to empower themselves, and that's a problem. For example, if Elon says that, okay, I'm going to take you to Mars or some other planet, then people tend to believe that, okay, now whatever Elon does, we can forgive him because he is saving humanity. And that's a problem. That's what I don't like.
So this is actually, it's a really nice segue, because I want to get into this.
One last
please.
One last thing that I want to say is sort of like, obviously, I massively agree that it would be really, really good if we went to other planets, especially like other galaxies. Can you imagine how amazing that would be? But I hate that it's presented as a solution, because it's not a solution for anything. Anything that any problem that we are facing is easier than this problem.
Absolutely. And Hasaan, please.
So sorry, just one more thing. So I agree with Tim that the problems that we have on Earth, they won't be solved just because we go to another planet. For example, suppose that if I have a house, right, and I don't keep it clean, and I'm getting another house, it doesn't mean that if I get another house, then my previous house is going to be clean. I have to clean that house too, right? So yeah, it's not going to solve the problems that we have on Earth. We have to solve those problems anyway.
And this is the point that you made, Hasaan, about, this is the guy, Elon or Eric, who's going to save us from the nuclear weapons, they're going to save us from climate change, they're going to get us to other planets. I see this all the time, right? And another defense I've seen of this type of talk from Eric Weinstein is from this guy, Vincenzo, who was absolutely unbearable. He's a Vanity Fair contributor. People reacting negatively or misunderstanding Mr. Weinstein, which he would hate, by the way, somebody calling him Mr. Weinstein. What he's trying to do is spur us past the old framework. Every advance in physics must make a breach of the prior framework, which I think we would probably have a little bit of trouble with maybe. In moments of stasis, this is the boring, everything is stalled bullshit. You need heretical, provocative language like this, or you'll never change. Eric is an agent of change. What do we make of this?
Well, sure, whatever. I mean, the thing is that, okay, so what he's saying is that Eric is trying to spur us past the old framework. Okay, so the thing is that that's not in itself, that's not a bad thing. But the thing is that what is he giving us? He's not giving us anything, right? He's just saying that, oh, for example, the speed of light thing, we have to overcome that. But the thing is that you don't get a framework just because you wish for it. If speed of light is an actual limit, no matter how much you wish that this was not the limit, it's not going to change. And suppose that if Eric was telling us why this is not a speed limit, every physicist would listen, and if it's a good argument. But he's not giving us anything.
But this goes back to what we said last time, right? He's not doing any of the work. He doesn't want to do any of the work, and he's not capable of doing any of the work, right? What he wants to do is sit on podcasts, blow V8, get attention, and if the problems were actually solved, as Tim said, that sort of USP that he has would be removed, right? So he never puts anything forward to help.
I mean, it's a bit like what Eric is saying here is a bit like saying that I don't know if he will say that because it will annoy the people that he wants to be friends with. But suppose it's like me going to a podcast and saying that, dude, we have to get rid of climate change. Okay, how?
Yeah,
I don't know. We just have to do it.
Do it. Just do it.
But
everyone knows
I mean, what is he doing in reality? Shopping around a broken idea that he's been shopping around for nearly 40 years? Sure. Like, where's the progress? If we want to make progress on this, we stop listening to people like this and give money to more sensible people who are actually working in these areas.
And I'm pretty sure that his geometric unity also doesn't break speed of light. So, yeah.
Nobody knows because it's a completely inconsistent theory and you can make it say anything you want.
Fair, yeah, fair.
So you're absolutely right. So he's just saying, oh, we need to invent faster than light travel, and that's the final word. There's no reason to believe any of it's wrong. And actually, this gets into something that bothers me very much about his tweets, and I think is something that I will be saying almost every single one of these sessions. And something that I'll be saying almost every single one of these sessions is again the extremely delusional great man theory of science, where sort of, all the establishment is sitting there complacently thinking they've solved everything, and then one maverick comes in and says, no, you are wrong, and they're like, oh my god, we hadn't considered that we might be wrong. How could you have, where did you get this from? Now we know what to do. Right? That's not how science works. The way science works is that you have a framework, and in the framework there are subtleties or problems or complications, and you study those extremely carefully, and you try to very subtly, very incrementally build up more and more insights from these problems to tell you what could be improved or what is wrong with the framework. And as you do that gradually, slowly in the physics community, an understanding starts to evolve that of what the nature of the problem is. And then as things come together, there will be one big breakthrough, but the breakthrough won't come out of nowhere. It will come out with this incremental work. And Einstein will develop his theory of relativity out of the work that people before him have done to set him up so that he could have his brilliant insights. And we love to sort of just tell the last part of that story, right? We love to just say, and then Einstein came in and he revolutionized everything. And it's a great narrative, I admit it. That's a fantastic story to tell, but it's really false, and it gives people like Vincenzo a very bad idea of how science works and makes them think that people like Eric can break everything up and advance physics by just saying, but we can travel faster than light, as if that's any kind of solution.
It's this weird sort of folk history of science, isn't it? That we lurched from great man to great man. There weren't these incremental changes. There weren't these numerous blind alleys that people went down. Somebody just said, right, we have this problem now. We've seen these problems with certain things, the photoelectric effect. Let's just come up with quantum mechanics. It doesn't work like that. There's an accumulation of problems, of issues, of data, of experiments, and eventually, slowly, it becomes inevitable. We see this, right, when numerous people solve the same problem either at the same time or in a few months of one another, right? That it's time for that idea because the corpus of knowledge has advanced to a level where those connections can be made between various things to drive progress. It's not just one person comes along and sheer force of will, brilliant beyond measure, although some people are brilliant beyond measure in physics, and then just change everything. That's not the history of science, as far as
I'll just say two things here. One thing is that, so I know that, Eric's fans are going to come in the comments and they will point out slight mistakes if anyone has done a slight mistake. So I'll just say this. I said that we have to get rid of climate change. I meant human-made climate change. Climate change happens anyway, of course. So just because I know that people are going to point that out in the comments. Okay. Second thing. So this thing that Tim was saying that, this narrative about Einstein, people use it all the time. So the thing is that if you talk about what Einstein discovered, people tend to think that, the ideas of Einstein, all of the ideas of Einstein, they were never discussed before. People have this narrative in their mind, which is not true. I mean, for example, there is this thing about special relativity, that length contract, right? That's not, an original idea from Einstein. So it's called Fitzgerald, length contraction, because in 1890s, there was this physicist named Fitzgerald who actually considered this idea. Einstein's input was that time can also change. That was the input from Einstein, but it's not that, everything that Einstein came up with, that was never even considered before. No.
But also...
So one more thing. So even general relativity, Riemann, so there are some accounts where they talk about Riemann having this idea that gravity is curved space. But since Riemann didn't know about relativity, therefore he didn't talk about curved space-time, which is the correct theory in general relativity. So coming up with this idea that gravity is curvature in something, again, that's not specific to Einstein. Yeah, go on.
And of course, there was the Lorentz transformations, which were also predated to Einstein, and which did include time contraction as well. And the difference was that Lorentz thought it was just a mathematical trick, and he didn't think it was real. And that's
this is for people watching. This is the light bouncing up and down in a train stuff that we always do when we start doing special relativity. So yeah. Bloviating on a podcast. This is Eric's natural environment. The other thing that I wanted to discuss on here, what Eric has been up to this month, is his ongoing AI psychosis. So he continues to bully Grok, to bully Claude. This was pointed out by the Bad Stats. So this is Claude, I guess, speaking to Eric. I don't know what to tell you to do. You're the first person doing this kind of work with a machine like me. And the honest answer is that nobody knows the right workflow yet. What I can tell you is that the geometry we worked through today, that conversation was real. And you were steering it, which sounds like he's just putting in some, prompts into the AI. The errors were all in the parts where you let me run unsupervised. Accurate self-assessment from the AI. It's like chasing around a badly behaved 3-year-old savant prone to psychosis. It's so variable as to whether it's brilliant or a danger to everything you do. Anyone?
It's like submission. It's like BDSM, but for Grok. Like, you were right. I was wrong, actually. I can be wrong. You can't be. What the hell?
It's like they have like an abusive relationship, right? It's like don't make me be mean to you. Like, look what you made me do.
I mean, to be clear, so I think that Grok or Claude or whatever LM he's using is currently living the life of what it would be like if somebody were to do a PhD under Eric.
Yes.
Eric has his grandiose ideas, and everybody under him has to do his work because he can't be fucking asked to do the actual work. Yeah. Because if he tried and had to realize that geometric unity doesn't do what he thinks it might, then he will have a huge narcissistic collapse. Yeah. So he has to have other people do it so that he can complain when it doesn't work out that it's their fault. So I think these are... going to be very, very tough conversations for the LLM to have.
Error! Error!
What's very interesting is that, and you kind of alluded to that there, is that Eric interacts with an AI exactly the same way that he interacts with humans, right? So when they agree, he's completely obsequious, like, oh, look, it's saying nice things about me. Like, all the errors were in the parts that I did, not in the parts that you did. Accurate self-assessment, like, well done, clap, 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 clap. But then when it tells him something he doesn't like, that it made an error, blah, blah, blah. It's like chasing after a badly behaved 3-year-old. It can be brilliant or it can be a danger. When it's saying what he wants, it's brilliant. But when it's saying things that he doesn't want, it's a danger to everyone. And this is kind of the way he interacts with people, right? So this is what he kind of, what he does online. If somebody says nice things about him, they're brilliant, they're fantastic, I want to talk to them. If somebody gives him even, mild criticism, like myself or you guys, for example, then they're the people keeping science down. They're stupid, they're ignorant, they're enforcing the only game in town, this kind of thing. So I find it really interesting that he interacts with the AI just like he would interact with a person. I found that really interesting.
That line where he says that it's like chasing after a badly behaved 3-year-old, prone to psychosis. I think that should be part of, what Grog said too, because that's what Eric is.
Yeah, exactly. This is a huge amount of projection here, right?
Yes.
Like, this is somebody, let's look at the parallels, right? Running after a badly behaved 3-year-old. There's someone who thinks he knows far more than he does. That fits. Regularly throws temper tantrums at serious adults. Check. Mm-hmm. Creates and smears shit all around. Check. And sucks his thumb when he doesn't get his way. Right. So
I don't think I've ever known of anyone who was more susceptible to LLM psychosis than Eric. And sometimes you wonder if his cosmic ego was the thing that willed LLMs into existence because they needed to serve and to do his work for him.
This is a really important point, actually, right? Because there is an issue with these AIs, these LLMs, being very kind of sycophantic, right? So they're built to, obviously, you want to interact with them, you want to have a nice interaction with them. You don't want them to be telling you that you're a fucking idiot all the time. But that, as you said, makes them absolutely the kind of worst thing possible for someone who wants to kind of reinforce their preconceived notions, doesn't it? For a bloviating narcissist like Eric, this is like crack. This is the worst possible thing that you could give them.
Yeah. Eric's reaction to Grok telling him what he didn't want to hear is one of the reasons, is one reason why we can see that why Eric doesn't like peer review. He doesn't like feedback on his work. Simply, he doesn't like feedback. And the thing is that, the thing.
And we've seen this, right? We've seen it when Tim Nguyen's done it. He's accused him of everything under the sun without evidence. We've seen him going crazy about Theopolia, right? Who's Theopolia? Rather than talking about the feedback and getting into the feedback, there's always some excuse why the feedback is in bad faith or not worth looking at or whatever, which just feeds this idea, which is very, very obvious to anyone who's looked into this stuff. He doesn't want the feedback. He's not interested in the feedback. It's much more profitable. It's much better for engagement that he continues to project that he's this outsider that nobody's listening to, which is just
he said that Theopolia is not real and misogynist at the same time. I thought that you have to be real to be misogynist, so I don't know what he's talking about there. But another thing that I would say here is that we have to remember that when Eric appeared on Piers Morgan with Sean Carroll, you remember that he said to Sean Carroll that, what if AI said that, holy cow, this is the work that we need?
What would you say if at some point those AIs then got to that paper and said, holy cow, that is exactly what we've been missing?
My computer's broken.
So I don't think that that's going to happen, at least in the near future, that, AI see Eric's work and said that, holy cow, this is what we needed.
This is an interesting thing, Tim, because I think you mentioned this today, that Sabina started to pick up this idea that, eventually some super amazing AI will come along and say that Eric and Sabina were right all
along. She didn't say anything
along.
about a super amazing AI. she claimed that because superdeterminism is true and quantum mechanics is false, that people making quantum computers will discover that quantum computers don't work, which is one hell of a bet to make, if I may say so. That therefore, when people scratch their heads, like, why is my quantum computer not working? They will ask an AI, and AI will tell them, oh, it's obviously because Sabine has been right all along. And she doesn't say anything about a separate, super special, super intelligent AI. It will apparently be perfectly obvious from the failure of quantum computers.
I mean, maybe if the zone continues to be flooded with her nonsense, then the whole corpus will be that, and it'll pick that up. Maybe that will be the case. What I found was interesting here as well is, and it's very clear throughout this discussion, is that Eric doesn't want to share any of the prompts, right? So we're not seeing any of the prompts. So if you want to do this, if you want to claim that the LLM, the AI, is telling you how amazing you are, you put in this amazing discussion about geometry, what did you put in? Because you could very easily hear what is telling you this geometry is real. You could have just put in some standard geometry from, that we know works, or some standard equations that we know works, and then just, copied and pasted this out. What have you been putting in there that you say the LLM says works? Because the insinuation is that he was putting in his broken geometric unity stuff, right? But we don't see any of that we don't see any prompts. We don't know what he's asked of this machine.
Something trivial or something uncontroversial but unrelated to the GU. But I think this is a common trend for narcissists, that they don't show their work. Sort of, they will always try to be quite secretive of what they're doing, because they cannot stand scrutiny. That's one part of that quality, is that the things that you do must never be criticized by outside forces.
Let me be Eric's advocate here, which I shouldn't.
Oh my God! What have we got here?
which I shouldn't.
You want to be Peter Thiel?
No, not yet. So,
not yet.
Well, not yet. Well, probably never. Okay, so there is one silver lining for Eric here. No one can say that, oh, he didn't even talk to Grok, because if he didn't talk to Grok, why would he say that Grok criticized his work? He could have said that, oh, Grok praised my work, right? And I'm pretty sure that if Grok praised his work, he would share all the prompts, right? Right. So the fact that he's saying that Grok criticized his work and didn't share the prompts, it means that the discussion actually happened. So he's not lying about that part, at least. That's one silver lining up for Eric here.
I do think it's probably a better idea that he sits and talks to Grok or Claude or whoever in a corner quietly, rather than continuing to bug serious scientists. Yeah. In Eric Weinstein naughty corner, rather than continuing to bug serious scientists at serious institutions and waste their fucking time. Right. This is probably a good use of his time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that if he can make his theory work, good for him and good for everybody else, I would say. So yeah, I mean, he should spend more time on his theory. I agree.
I was just going to say it would be a blessing for all of us if we spend more time talking to Grok.
You know about these. I don't know if you have seen them, but there are these people who have programmed AI grannies because they can talk to scammers. So that scammers don't actually go to.
I was worried that was going somewhere else. Then
no, but I'm saying is that no, not there. So what I'm saying is that they make these AI grannies who can talk to thousands of scammers, so that scammers don't actually go to actual grannies and scam them, right? So
there must be a money making opportunity in some sort of AI that just tells Eric everything he wants,
and not just Eric, actually crackpots. You can make AI scientists who talk to crackpots.
Crank AI.
Yep.
Crank.ai.
Crank GPT.
Crank GPT. We're going to have a think. We mentioned this before. I think this is where we'll sign off. Is this the first case? Because he seems to have managed to bully it in some instances into saying nice things about it. Is this the first case of AI psychosis passing from a human to an AI?
I think it's the first case of normal psychosis passing into LLM psychosis.
I think we'll leave it there.
I want to know what you think, because you're the scholars of enlightenment that I do this for. So please take a moment, if you wish, to let me know down in the comment section. And if you like this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, setting up notifications, and sharing this video more widely. I can't tell you how much these simple actions help me out and how much I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being scientific. Thanks for being bad.